Woman expressed, because this world needs women unafraid of their own magic. Welcome to the show, where we explore what it means to be a fully expressed woman, a woman aligned with her desires and dreams, a woman who knows her potential is well within reach. Here, magic happens. Welcome back to another episode of the podcast, Woman Expressed, episode 4. Thank you for being here. Today has been an interesting day. This week has been incredible. I've had such a good week. My partner is here. We've been doing acro yoga every day. We've been surfing. We've been adventuring, going to the river, to waterfalls. It's so good to have him here. He's just such an adventure man. Today, a little weird. I started my day with a strawberry matcha, which is my kryptonite, and my body cannot tolerate caffeine. As much as I love it, every time I get a little insane. So I thought I was going to have a productive work morning. Turns out I was just crashing out a little bit on the couch, needing to regulate and relax because the caffeine hit your girl pretty hard. Now we're finally here recording an episode, and this is my 4th time attempting to record this episode in the last 10 minutes. I keep getting so frustrated with myself. I keep pausing and starting over and editing and deleting and doing all the things instead of just letting it flow, which is interesting because getting in front of the camera and talking, getting in front of the camera and expressing myself has become a really strong skill of mine. It's something I've honed a lot over the years. It's something I've practiced. And no matter how many times you do it, sometimes there are just those days where nothing seems to work. You get frustrated at yourself, your inner perfectionist and critic come out, and you just keep starting over and wasting your own time. So here we are. This time, we're just letting it be. We're just going to ride the wave and be here. And what a beautiful time to talk about perfectionism and the inner critic and the ridiculously high standards that we have for ourselves as humans, especially as women, that ultimately keep us away from our potential, away from our magic, away from the feminine flow. If you are a human, you are an artist. Let's start there. If you are a human being, you are absolutely an artist. By nature, it is your birthright to create. Especially as women, we are the birthers of life. Creation is quite literally the most natural thing about us, and therefore we are inherently meant to be in the process of creation without attachment to a destination. There is no rhyme or reason behind attaching so deeply to the destination of our art that not only does it cause us so much stress and anxiety and overwhelm and discomfort, but it also completely removes us from the absolute magic that is the creative process. As someone who considers themselves an artist through and through and had a long period of rejecting that notion, I've come to learn that the greatest gift that I can give my artistic expression is the freedom for it to be expressed without a need for it to look or feel a certain way. If we attach so tightly to the way our art looks, the way we express, the way it turns out, the way it's received, we're missing the entire point of the process. And I really have Julia Cameron and The Artist's Way to thank for much of this creative liberation. When I went through her 12-week journey, I was really met with my perfectionist in such a strong way. It knocked me on my ass because the second I got to this point of recognition, this point of, whoa, Emma, what are you up to? What's the fun in this? Like, what is the point of you doing this? Who is this serving? It gave me this spaciousness that I hadn't experienced in such a long time, to just be in the journey of creation. It's what allowed me to start writing my fantasy novel. It's what allowed me to write my indie album. It's what allowed me to return back to this state of, oh, art's meant to be fun. Art's meant to be healing, therapy, this process of connecting to something deeper and turning it into tangible form, bringing it from formless to form, not some journey where my brain is constantly saying, you suck, You're bad at this. This isn't good enough. This isn't worth being expressed. And can you imagine what our world would look like if human beings stopped attaching to where the art would lead them and instead just completely allowed themselves to be in the process of expression? I think it'd be a really beautiful world, more beautiful than it is now. And I find that the inner critic and the inner perfectionist are teachers, but when we give them too much value, they become major setbacks and detriments to our creative expression. And something I've been really sitting with and grappling with recently is that the opposite of depression is not joy or happiness or excitement, but instead is expression. So when we cage our expression, we're actually caging the parts of us that keep us from experiencing the deep sadness, the deep anxieties of life. And when we give ourselves that permission to just be in the process of creating for the sake of creation, we liberate ourselves from our own shackles, from society's shackles, from patriarchal shackles, from all these years and years of stories and conditioning telling us that we're not good enough and that we need to be a certain way to be worthy of making art. And look how easy it flows. I'm out here just letting it be received from the heart, letting it express from the heart, instead of thinking, I need to have a perfect script for my podcast. I need to write down every bullet point so I can remember exactly what I'm talking about. That's never been the way I want to communicate or express my truth. And that's not to say that there is literally a thing wrong with organizing and preparing, because everyone's at a different level of articulation, different level of public speaking or communicating or whatever it is. We're all at different levels. So whatever you need to do to set yourself up for success, to make yourself feel comfortable in the process of creation, that's beautiful. We definitely don't want to shame or judge or guilt ourselves for that. But in my human experience, what I know to be true about me is that I do best when I know the container through which I'm going to express, but otherwise allow the words to be channeled through me. And when I try to force it, when I try to script it, when I try to land at a specific destination point, I end up ruining the process for myself. And I am tired of ruining the process for myself. When we're living this short and sweet and miraculous life, what else is there to do but to be fully present with what wants to move through us in the moment it wants to move through us? Not trying to grasp onto something else, some other version, how we used to do it, how that amazing influencer does it, how that podcaster does it, how that coach does it. What about how you do it? And have you actually given yourself the time to connect with yourself in a way to know the ways in which you do it, the ways in which feel good for you to do it? It's meant to be an exploration. It's meant to be an excavation of your own gold. And you can't find your gold if you don't dig for it, if you don't meet yourself, if you don't dive in and let yourself go through the process. How can you know if you're a good singer if you never sing? How can you know if you're a talented painter if you never pick up the brush? How can you know if you're meant to podcast if you never let yourself pick up the mic and talk? So often we never even experience the process because we're too afraid to begin, because the critic and the perfectionist convince us, oh, we're not good enough, we might as well never start. But you know how you become good at something? You do it over and over and over again, and you mess up, and you fail, and you keep going, and you try again, and you realign, and you misalign, and it's messy, and it's beautiful, and it's yours. It is one of a kind, yours. So I've been sitting with this a lot lately because I really dance on both sides of this coin. I feel like I'm very compassionate and kind to myself and give my creative process a lot of space, and I'm really tender and feminine with the process until I'm not. And then I'm such an asshole to myself. I'm so hard on myself. My inner critic can be such a dick, so rude, so judgmental, so harsh. And then I get into this spiral and I scream and I get frustrated and I cry and I fill myself with this literal rage. And then I know that it's not mine. I always reach a point where I'm like, that is a story. Not mine, not my truth. A story I was programmed to believe to be true about myself. Where can I meet it with compassion? Where can I meet it with tenderness? Where can I meet it with love? Because boy, oh boy, can the perfectionist and the critic be the darkest, most evil, disconnecting part of yourself. It can really rip all of the goodness from you in these moments and make you feel so down, so low, so disconnected. And of course, all things are neutral until we give them meaning. So what if we could look at the perfectionist or the critic with this neutral lens of, hey, that's not my truth. That's a story. That's conditioning. That's a pattern. That's a belief system. I don't have to carry it anymore. I don't have to hold it and claim it as my own. I can release. I can let go. I can start again. And I can view and experience the journey through the lens of my inner child. Because how would little Emma want to experience this? She'd want to play. She'd want to laugh and be messy and have no care in the world about how it looked, but just to solely focus on what it felt like. And I really believe that every problem we've ever had when it comes to judging our own expression is because somewhere along our childhood, somewhere throughout that journey, someone or someone's convinced us that our art was bad, that our voices weren't worth being heard, that we didn't dance well enough, that we didn't sing well enough, that we should stay quiet and subdued and poised. So really uncaging your expression is uncaging the wild child within you, the wild woman within you, the fully liberated, expressed, free version of yourself who deserves to be heard, who is meant to make a massive impact on this planet, who cannot do the big work if she is deeply connected to her shame, locking herself in that box, caged inward, completely disconnected from her sovereignty because she's so afraid to try and fail and be seen trying and failing, instead of knowing that anyone else's perception of her is absolutely none of her business. This world needs you to say yes to your magic and say yes to your creative expression and say yes to your liberation, because not only do you then become a permission slip, but you teach others through your being, through who you be, that there's another way. We heal the collective by healing ourselves. We heal the creative expression of the collective by healing the creative expression within. And you have a responsibility to meet yourself in this way, because nobody else can save you. Nobody else can do it for you. Nobody else is going to hold your hand or hold the key to unlock the cage you're in, because it's yours. It's your cage. It's your key. And if that isn't the most liberating thing to know, difficult, challenging, overwhelming, confusing, liberating thing to know, I do not know what is. So I'm going to keep today very short and very sweet. If you are out here denying your expression, caging yourself because that inner critic, that perfectionist has convinced you you're not worthy of expressing, meet yourself today. Meet the perfectionist, meet the critic, and say, I love you. I understand you're trying to keep me safe. I understand and can resonate with why you show up here, but I do not permit you to rule my life. You have no power over me. You do not take the forefront of this show. I'm in charge now. Thank you for all you've done to protect me. I can keep myself safe. And then you create the art. You create the art. You make the damn art. Over and over and over again. And just watch what happens when you start to do it. When you liberate yourself from that cage, everything shifts. Everything shifts. Thank you for tuning in to this cutie little episode, and I'll see you next week.